Welcome once again. We're back with Greg Engert, beer director for the Neighborhood Restaurant Group, which includes Church Key, where we are right now, and downstairs, of course, Birch and Barley. What's on tap this week?
Well, this week I kind of wanted to feature a great beer, a classic international craft beer from England that people have often asked about, and for a long time there I was unable to procure it. And it's back now with a vengeance, so you're seeing it all over the place now, and it really is an amazing beer. It's called Old Peculier. It's from Theakston in northern England, in North Yorkshire, from a little town called Masham. And this is a beer that has been being brewed since 1890, actually, and the brewery's been around Theakston since 1827. It's had a very long and kind of storied history, and recently it changed hands. It was purchased by some people, and then eventually it went over to Scottish in Newcastle. But in 2004, the Theakston family bought it back. So now it's an independent, wonderful craft brewery, and they're still making their legendary Old Peculier beer.
Okay, before we taste, what are we looking for?
Well, so this is the Old and Peculier tells us that this is originally kind of known as an old ale or a stock ale, and really what this tells us today is it's kind of a malty English ale. Some would call it an English strong ale, although at like 5.6%, it's not all that strong, but you're going to get a full, rich malt body, a little bit of a fruity note from the particular fermentation they employ, the yeast that they utilize, this English yeast in the Yorkshire Square fermentation device. A little bit of kind of like figgy, raisin quality, plum, dark malty sweetness, and it definitely is a beer that, while sweet, finishes semi-dry.
Okay.
See, it's got that classic English fruited character, that really nice dark bready quality, a hint of roast. It's great for people who love, beers from Fuller's or something like that. Definitely has this great kind of rich malt character, but it's not overly heavy on the palate either.
I mean, before the explosion of craft brewing in this country, if you wanted to have something different, you bought English beer, of course, Belgian beer. Do they make what you would consider craft brews in England? I've been there, and one thing that strikes me as interesting is you go to a pub and they might list the alcohol by volume, and 5% is high.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's because they still thrive on their cask ale culture, and truly cask ale today, fresh, unpasteurized, unfiltered beers at anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5% alcohol are going to show a wonderful subtle complexity on cask, really fresh beer. So it kind of went that way, but really the lower alcohol beers are the result of wars and taxation and rationing and things like that. So you see, like post-World War II, a lot of strong ales really actually being 5.5%, where they may have been stronger before. And as far as craft beer goes, I would make the claim that these kinds of beers are craft beer before craft beer was craft beer, kind of local, provincial styles of beer that maybe put flavor before profitability. That said, there's a new cadre of English craft brewers coming up, these smaller ones. Probably the most famous British small craft brewer is Brewdog from Scotland, but we have Marble from Manchester, which is phenomenal. They're just starting to ship some bottles over here. Another great one is called Colonel, which you have to go to England to get, but the scene is a really cool blend of old and new.
And as you talk about in the tasting that you do downstairs with people, beer as we know it, is not all that old, really. But these people have been doing it a long time.
Exactly.
Longer time than that.
Much longer. And, it's kind of an interesting thing. It's called Old Peculier. This whole idea of old ale or stock ale or provision ale harkens back to a time when beer was laid down by the brewers like fine wines would have been. They were encouraging this kind of vinous wine-like quality, perhaps some acidity with aging the beer. And it wasn't just strong beers that were aged like this. It was low alcohol, medium, strong beers. They were aging it for this character. And the name Old Ale stuck around even after people kind of got away from wanting that kind of old vinous quality in their beer and wanted something a little bit crisper and cleaner. They stopped aging the beer, but still making these beautifully rich malt-driven beers to be consumed fresh. Although this one could last a little bit longer.
What would you pair with this for food?
Well, this, to me, is a classic winter beer insofar as winter fare. I mean, if you're thinking about like a rich stew of any kind, it would be absolutely amazing with it. I think of duck when I think of it because it's got that great kind of dark fruitiness to it. It really work nicely with kind of a gamey wild character. Any form of like red meat, lamb, things like that, I think it would be really classic with.
All right, Greg Engert, thanks as always.
Pleasure.
I'm Brennan Haselton, and remember to bring your thirst next time for another Beer of the Week.